Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're taking the stack of sources you provided and turning it into, well, a complete masterclass on a topic that follows almost every ambitious person I know: self-doubt.
It's such an essential mission because we tend to treat self-doubt as um, this huge amorphous blob of worry.
Yeah, just this big cloud of insecurity you have to push through.
Exactly. But what's so fascinating is the decades of really robust research from psychology to, organizational behavior have distilled it down into four incredibly distinct, measurable drivers.
So the goal isn't just to feel less anxious, it's to understand the specific root cause of that anxiety.
Precisely. We want to give you the tools to figure out which of these four drivers is really propelling your doubt. Because once you identify the driver, the path to moving through it becomes almost surgical.
Right.
And what's so critical to remember is that self-doubt, it rarely just disappears when you achieve something. It just scales with your responsibility. Our goal here is to help you diagnose your specific doubt profile so you can move forward, regardless of the feeling.
That completely reframes the problem. It makes it a diagnostic challenge, not some kind of character flaw. So if we have these four drivers, what's the bedrock? What's the foundation they all rest on?
It all comes back to a concept called your self-image. This is the internal blueprint you hold about yourself. It's a collection of these deeply held beliefs, and it's constantly reinforcing itself.
That sounds incredibly powerful, but also a little abstract. I mean, how do we know how much power the self-image really holds over our reality?
Well, we can see its power in this really fascinating 1970s experiment run by psychology professor Robert Kell at Dartmouth.
Okay.
So Kell gathered a bunch of participants, and for one group, he drew this highly visible, pretty ugly scar in their face, running from the ear toward the mouth.
So they see it in the mirror, they know it's there.
They look in the mirror, they confirm the scar is there, then he sends them out to have just, everyday conversations with strangers, expecting everyone to notice this disfigurement. But here's the twist. Right before they left, the researcher told them he was applying a special sealant to, protect the makeup. In reality, he was using moisturizing cream and secretly wiped the scar completely off.
No way.
Yep. So the participants believed the scar was still visible, but they walked out with a totally clear face.
So they're interacting with the world with a completely false internal belief about how they look?
Precisely. And afterwards, the group that believed they had the scar, they overwhelmingly reported feeling judged, tense, and distant in their conversations. They saw neutral glances as judgment, silence as avoidance.
Wow. I mean, that's just a perfect example of confirmation bias at work, isn't it? We all carry these invisible scars, these beliefs about ourselves, and our brain is just wired to magnify anything that reinforces that negative expectation. If you believe you're unworthy, you only see the data points that confirm it.
That's the mechanism. If you walk into a big meeting believing you're not capable, you won't just notice criticism, you'll actively search for any tiny signal, a raised eyebrow, a sigh, that confirms that belief.
Which just plunges you deeper into doubt. Okay, so if self-image is the foundation, how do we make it practical? How did the research distill this down into those four drivers?
Well, they found that over 50 years of data pointed to four core dimensions that, really prop up our self-image. These four pillars dictate how we see ourselves, how we interact, and critically, they predict everything from job performance to career satisfaction.
And when they're weak, that's where self-doubt comes from.
That's where it comes from. And these are the four A's we're diving into today: acceptance, agency, autonomy, and adaptability.
Let's start with acceptance, because that sounds like the deepest, most foundational layer of all.
It is. Acceptance relates directly to self-esteem. It's about your inherent value and your worth. A lack of acceptance is really the root of that paralyzing thought, I'm not enough.
And it shows up in specific ways, right? There were four habits the research pointed to.
Four painfully familiar habits, yeah. First, there is the pressure to prove. This is that constant, exhausting need to seek external validation and praise through your performance.
You're performing to confirm your value, not really for the joy of the work.
Exactly. And if the praise stops, you spiral. Second is the shrinking syndrome, where people actually fear the success they claim they want. Deep down, they don't feel they deserve it, which leads to self-sabotage right before a big goal.
That makes sense. It's like a defense mechanism kicks in to stop you from having to sustain a level of success you don't feel worthy of.
Then the third one is a little bit darker. It's what's sometimes called the Schadenfreude cycle, where you get this strange little satisfaction when you see other people fail.
That quick boost you get when a competitor stumbles.
Right, and that's a huge sign your own self-esteem is suffering.
Yeah.
You kind of need others to be less for you to feel whole. The last one is maybe the most destructive. It's the endless need for approval.
Saying yes when you mean no.
Saying yes when you mean no, wearing masks, becoming codependent. You just gradually lose yourself because the version of you that gets approval is the only one you show.
And since this develops so early, based on how our caregivers responded to us, how do we even begin to rewire a belief like, I must perform to be worthy?
You have to interrupt the pattern. That belief, I'm not enough, it's just a repeated, fast pattern of thought. It's a well-worn neural pathway, not some eternal truth.
So you have to consciously break the loop.
You do. When that voice pipes up, you have to consciously re-engage your rational mind, your prefrontal cortex, and just state the truth. I am of value. It's about conscious repetition.
But that internal soundtrack, the whole I, me, my, how am I doing, it's so loud. Is there a way to just quiet it for a minute?
There is.
Yeah.
It's called the self-forgetting hack. If you can shift your attention from those internal questions, how do they see me, to external ones, like how can I be of value or service right now?
Yeah.
You quiet the ego.
It pulls your focus outward.
And self-doubt, which is always self-focused, it just recedes.
We also saw in the sources this powerful idea of detaching your identity from your job. The simple phrase, you are not your job.
It's so simple, but it's transformative. Because when your identity is too attached to achievement, any failure becomes a personal catastrophe. I mean, look at the research on Nobel Prize-winning scientists.
Yeah, this is amazing.
They were 3 times more likely than average scientists to have a serious creative hobby, and an incredible 22 times more likely to be involved in the performing arts.
22 times. That suggests the hobby is essential to their success, not just some sideline.
Because those creative outlets,
Yeah.
music, painting, acting, they give you a source of self-esteem and acceptance that has nothing to do with the lab. It's a psychological escape hatch. It's what allows you to bounce back from failure at work.
You need a source of value that isn't your title. Okay, one more thing on acceptance. Perfectionism. What's the real difference between healthy striving and that maladaptive perfectionism?
Maladaptive perfectionism, which is fueled by low acceptance, means you use high standards to beat yourself up when you fall short. It's punishment. Striving for excellence means you set high standards, but when you fall short, you immediately shift to learning. The goal is growth, not self-flagellation.
And to counter that need for approval, the compulsive yes.
You have to use intentional delay. Instead of that reflexive yes, you create a boundary space. You just say, that sounds interesting. Let me check my calendar and I'll get back to you by whatever time you commit to.
It gives you time to check your motives. Am I doing this because I want to or because I need them to like me?
Exactly. You get to honor your deeper yes.
Okay, that's a practical superpower. Let's shift gears. We always talk about confidence as the goal. But if self-doubt is the problem, what's the actual structural opposite?
It's self-trust. That's the key distinction. Confidence, the feeling of confidence, that comes after you take action. Your brain needs proof. It needs data.
Okay.
But what you need before the action is self-trust. It comes from the Latin confidere, with trust. It's the belief that you can handle whatever happens, whether you succeed or fail.
So self-trust lets you take the risk, and then the action creates the confidence.
Got it. Let's get into the next 2 drivers that build that trust.
So driver number 2 is agency. Agency is all about self-efficacy. It's the belief in your skills, but more importantly, your belief in your ability to learn and master new ones.
And a lack of agency, that's where the imposter phenomenon comes from, right?
Precisely. That feeling of being a fraud, even when you have a track record. You feel like you got here by luck, not by skill.
So the action here has to be about neutralizing that I don't belong feeling.
It is. When that voice says you don't belong, you have to flip the narrative. Reframe it as, wow, what an amazing opportunity I have to learn and grow. Who can I learn from? You move from toxic comparison to proactive emulation.
The sources had a great strategy for this, specifically for job interviews where you might feel underqualified.
That's right. It's okay to acknowledge an expertise gap, but you have to immediately pivot to your transferable skills. We all undervalue the skills that become second nature, things like resilience, curiosity, tenacity, your essence qualities.
Exactly. And in that interview, if they ask about a missing skill, you don't just apologize. You confidently share a 90-day roadmap.
Tell me more about that.
You say, I recognize this gap. In the first 30 days, I'll be observing and training. The next 30, I'll focus on mentorship. And the final 30 will be implementation. You're proving you trust your process for learning. That's agency.
That's brilliant. You're showing conviction in your capacity, not just your credentials. Okay, let's move to driver 3, autonomy. This is about believing I have influence.
Lack of autonomy is so corrosive. It shows up as chronic complaining, resentment, blame, always reliving past hurts. It all stems from a low trust in your ability to influence outcomes.
Which brings us to the locus of control.
Right. An external locus means you focus on what you can't control. The economy, your boss, the weather. It makes you feel powerless.
Because you are powerless over those things.
An internal locus means you shift focus to what you can control. Your interpretations, your actions, your preparation. That makes you feel powerful.
There was that fantastic analogy for this choice, the bison mindset.
It illustrates the point perfectly. When a storm comes, cows walk away from it, so the storm catches them, and they get the full brunt for longer. Bison, on the other hand, walk directly toward the storm. They pass through the worst of it much quicker. The bison mindset is choosing to approach discomfort. That is autonomy.
So how do we translate that into action? How do we stop ruminating on what we should have done?
Use the I could, I will list. The word should is so disempowering, it's full of guilt. Shift your language to coulds, which opens up possibilities.
So you brainstorm everything you could do.
Write down everything you could do, no matter how wild. Circle 3, and then commit to your I will list. It instantly gears your brain away from rumination and toward action.
It turns helplessness into a plan. This also connects to post-traumatic growth, right?
Absolutely. We know that after a trauma, some people don't just get PTSD, they experience growth. And the quality that drives this is curiosity.
They ask, what did I learn?
What did I learn? How did I grow stronger? This allows them to begin what's called narrative re-identification. They don't change the facts of what happened, but they change the meaning they apply to it. They shift from a contamination story to a redemptive story.
That's the ultimate expression of autonomy. Okay, that brings us to our final driver, adaptability. This one seems really practical, like in-the-moment emotional regulation.
That's what it is. It's your ability to guide and harness your emotions rather than letting them just take over. You can't stop self-doubt from showing up, but you can control your response.
So let's use that classic example. The fear of speaking up in a meeting. How does adaptability help there?
You use the 3-second spiral stop. When the anxiety hits, the racing heart, the voice screaming, no, you have to intervene. First, take a deep breath. Second, acknowledge the fear, but remind yourself you're not in physical danger.
And
Third, and this is critical, speak slowly. Start with something low stakes, a short statement like, that's a great idea, Jay, just to get a proof point that you can open your mouth without disaster.
Why is speaking slowly so important?
Because when we're scared, our sympathetic nervous system is in overdrive, and we naturally speed up our speech. It makes us sound uncertain. Speaking slowly forces you to re-engage your rational brain. It brings calm and authority back to your voice.
Such a simple, actionable technique. Okay, as we wrap this up, let's talk about the language we use. Overriding those old labels we stick on ourselves.
Yes. You have to replace those fixed, deficit-based labels with growth-oriented language. Stop saying, I am a procrastinator. That's an identity.
Say,
I am learning to be better with my time and prioritizing action over overthinking. You're using language to reflect the person you are becoming, not the behavior you're leaving behind.
And what about when other people notice that growth and they say, you've changed, which usually comes from their own discomfort?
That moment is a huge test of your new self-trust. The most powerful positive reframe is to just smile and say, thanks for noticing. Growth has been a priority for me.
I love that. It flips the evaluation into a positive affirmation.
So we've done it. You now have the blueprint, the 4 A's: acceptance, agency, autonomy, and adaptability. You can diagnose your self-doubt, not just suffer through it. And just remember, confidence isn't a feeling you wait for. It's the acknowledgement of your own abilities. You're not waiting for confidence. You are choosing self-trust.
That choice is the ultimate takeaway. And let's leave you with this final thought, which ties together autonomy and agency. If you apply that I could, I will list to one major challenge you're facing, this week 1 area where you usually feel powerless, what concrete earned luck will you have created for yourself a month from now? Pick one I will action item and go after it.